What's going on, guys? Cheddar here, just doing a quick build update on the Element RC Enduro Kit version. A couple of things I wanted to note: building the transmission and the axle. I only have the front axle, but most of the stuff would apply to the rear axle as well. First off, the transmission. The bearing that goes into the female half of the main gear assembly is a very tight fit, and I actually had to press mine in with a vise. After going on some online forums and talking to people, it seems like it's a pretty common issue. It doesn't affect the performance of the transmission any, it just kind of makes it a pain to assemble. A couple suggestions were to put the bearings in the freezer for a couple hours, and then that would cause them to shrink because of the temperature, and then they may slip right in. But like I say, I pressed mine in and it works fine. Everything still works smooth, so it's not an issue. It's just a bit time consuming when I was trying to assemble it. The kit version comes with the optional overdrive gears, which I put in, but it also includes an extra top shaft for the transmission, and that is for mounting the motor in the forward position as opposed to the rearward position that is stock. Yeah, but that means that when you're assembling it, if you use the extra top shaft, you have to pay attention to the diagram in the back of the manual, because if you change the top shaft, you also have to change the orientation of the gears on the main shaft. Moving on to the axle. When you're assembling the front axle, pay attention to the orientation of the right side steering plate, because these holes on the plate are different distances away from the center mounting points. It's only about 2 millimeters difference, but it is a difference. The long end needs to go to the front, which ties into the servo. The short end matches the left side, and that's where the tie rod connects. As far as the assembly, I chose to use a set of fast eddy thrust bearings. This is just an optional thing that I chose because I've been reading on the forums that the pinion in the axle has a little bit of lateral play, which can cause grinding on between the pinion and ring gear. So the thrust bearing just simply alleviates some of that lateral thrust and helps maintain the good mesh between the ring and pinion gear. And lastly, one thing that I was going to do was use some axial aluminum hexes that I had in my spare parts to replace the plastic hexes that come in the kit, but they did not fit. The hole was just a tiny bit too small to fit over the axles. You could probably just take a drill or a Dremel and just remount the hole on that hex just a little bit to make it fit, but I didn't want to destroy a perfectly good set of aluminum hexes when it's possible that K&K's brass hexes will slip right on. I don't know yet. I'm going to probably get some this weekend and try it on. One thing I noticed was the mounting of the lower link mounts and the shoulder screws that go into the knuckles. These screws here and the screws that go into the lower link mounts. Those, I had one on the lower link mount and one on the knuckle, one shoulder screw on the knuckle that felt like it stripped out because these are the soft plastic, so I would recommend getting the hard plastic parts. It also includes, or it has built in, molded in, it has bump stops for the steering to limit steering throw. And if the guy wanted to, you could machine or file away those bump stops to give a little more steering throw, but by the looks of it, it's already pretty much maxed out, and if you went any farther, you probably end up binding that axle U-joint. That is just about it. Stay tuned for the next section, rear axle, and then we're going to move on to the links, and then the shocks, and then we're done.